The topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Welcome, everyone. It's Betty Ray with the Archangel Raphael. I am so blessed to bring this wonderful being of light to you each Tuesday on this program. I'm called Betty Ray. Actually, that's my middle name, Ray. But after marrying a man who had a name that was very difficult to pronounce, and once he passed away, I legally went ahead and dropped all last names. So now I am simply Betty Ray, and I bring you the Archangel Raphael. This wonderful being of light has been with me, I think probably all my life, but I didn't become aware of it until I was in my 40s. I was always a very spiritual person, always wanting to know God's will and follow it. I wanted to be a nun. I wanted to dedicate my life to God. Instead, I dedicated my life to a husband and 4 kids, and now 7 grandchildren. And so in my 80s, I'm here to share with you the wonderful experience I've had in knowing and speaking with the Archangel Raphael. And so I'm sharing that with you every Tuesday at noon here on this wonderful radio station. I hope you will talk to us today, give us comments, and let us know what you're thinking, what you'd like to know from the Archangel, and be at peace right now. We're in a transition of government, and we're in a transition of dark and light. And this is one of the things that I wanted to bring to you as we talk about the energy of dark and light on the planet. Now, there are many light beings, and I'm sure those of you who are watching this show are some of them, because you are seeking truth. And it's sometimes very hard to find the truth when you have one person saying this and another person saying that, and they don't agree. How do you know what is the truth? Well, you look at it in a measuring stick between light and dark. When there is good intent that is for the highest good of all people on the planet, you are in the right ballpark. But when it is in the interests of individuals, of power, of money, of control of others, you are in the ballpark of the dark. When there is the people who would create chaos, those are the people that are following dark instincts. And so there is only dark and light on this planet. Beyond this planet, there's only light. And so when you lift yourself out of fear and anxiety and you go to the light, you will be inspired with beauty and goodness and peace and harmony. But if you're all mixed up inside and you're tense and your shoulders are hurting because you're so tense in your neck, when you are fearful and anxious, the dark is influencing you. And you need to just snap out of it. Because when you are feeling that dark energy overwhelming you, and that's a feeling you get, is being overwhelmed. When you have that feeling, that's when you stop. And you back up and you say, God, send me angels and help lift me out of this darkness. And then you listen to good. If it is anxiety and fear, as all these fear mongers would like to wrap around you and choke you to death, if it is that, then you are feeding the darkness. And if that's where you want to go, frankly, God does not judge you, dear ones. If you want to experience the dark, if you want to experience chaos and confusion and sadness, then have at it and enjoy it. Because God does not judge you at all for the choices you make. You are a soul, a huge, magnificent being of light that has put just a portion of your energy into this physical body to keep it alive. There's only a portion of your soul within you. And that's why coming into a physical body on planet Earth, where there are the tug and back and forth between dark and light, that's why you're here, to experience that. And if this is your lifetime for experiencing the darkness, then enjoy it. But the harm you do to others will be done unto you sometime or another. As you set forth in front of you, you will receive back in some way or another. That's the law of balance. And that's why there's no judgment by God, because you create your future with every thought you think. And so please give us some comments, ask questions. But right now, I want to read from you a wonderful book that Raphael had us write. And this was a long time ago. It's called Life in Three Dimensions: the spirit, the soul, and the physical. And merging those dimensions so that you are one and that you are more in control of your life. And I wanted to read to you the elements of balance for all of creation. This is Raphael talking. He says, another example of a tyrant was during Augustus Caesar's rule, when the Romans tortured the Christians in the arena of the lions. These cruel acts first begot those souls a like experience as a victim in their next lifetime to balance that which they had wrought. It's all about balance, people. As you create, so shall you experience. If you create chaos and darkness in your life, you're going to experience it coming right back at you. And those hopes and desires that you have for whatever will likely not make the fruition of experience. But if you have a pure heart, a heart that seeks only justice and peace and harmony for others and for yourself, then you will create beauty in this world. And you will be inspired by the angels to create goodness and beauty. And so we ask you to lift up your hearts and minds and souls out of the darkness that would keep you in fear and anxiety and conspiracy theories. If there is someone who is telling you something that is of the dark, cancel them out of your life. If they are telling you to do something that is not for the good of all, cancel them out of your life. If they are making you afraid of the good that you see in others, cancel them out of your life. You have free will, dear ones. You have the ability to choose. Well, good afternoon to you, Johnny. Thank you for joining us again. I do hope that your day is going beautifully. And to all of the viewers that are here. And if you have questions for Raphael, please don't hesitate to ask them. So we're talking today about balance of dark and light. It's something you cannot escape while you are a sentient being in a physical body and you are here on planet Earth. Because planet Earth allows souls to experience the polarities that will push you and pull you this way and that way, that will cause confusion because you don't even know sometimes which is up and which is down. That's part of being on planet Earth. So Your soul is exploring this particular planet's polarities. That means that of the many lifetimes it will have here on our beautiful planet, it will explore both the dark and the light. So God does not judge or condemn those who are now exploring the dark, because that's part of their training as a soul, as an explorer of a planet. And that's what they're doing. And so it's hard for us to not judge those who are creating chaos and harm to others. And we want to bring them to justice, and rightly so, because this is part of our plan to bring peace and harmony to our planet as we see it. So we are heading toward an impeachment a second time of Donald Trump. And that impeachment will talk about justice and the consequences of choices. Because even if he is excused in some way, he's not excused from the life of a soul. He will have to experience everything negative that he has done against others. He will have to be on the receiving end sooner or later. Now, we are in a time factor and we don't like to wait for later. We want it now. And so it is hard for us to see injustice when somebody seems to get away with something. But believe us when we say no one gets away with anything. And in fact, here's something that Raphael has said in this wonderful book. The question is, what about tyrants like Hitler who wrought such horrible acts of evil? Raphael says, first of all, dear one, we say to you, no one is responsible for the acts of others. During his regime, Hitler may have been influenced by others who wanted power and believed themselves to be a superior race. But he was responsible for each decision he personally made. It may take many lifetimes for those souls to rectify their acts toward humanity. They will create lifetimes of service to others. Remember, we're talking about balance. It is much like your courts now that insist upon community service to pay a debt. The question is, has Hitler's soul paid his debts yet? And what does Raphael say? Not yet. Since that time, his soul has created multiple human entities that he has ensouled simultaneously. Did you know that you can be a soul with several personalities on the planet at the same time? When I was first told this back way, I didn't know that. A soul can create more than one sentient being and be within all of them. So Hitler has had to create several personalities to live on planet Earth all at the same time. And let's see, it has taken a great deal of the soul's energy to do this, but he is well on track now. In all of these lives, he has experienced service to others, as well as being a victim of racial prejudice as part of his retraining as a creator. Some of his lives have been short-lived because of violent deaths. This entity will continue new incarnations on the planet in bodies that will experience the, quote, fruits of his creations, unquote. If you were to meet him today, you would find him a philanthropist, giving away his wealth to help others find a cure for a disease he contracted while he was Hitler. Well, I don't know, this was written quite a long time ago, whether he's done with all of that yet, but anyway, that's what Raphael says. And he goes on to say the element of balance is ongoing for all of creation. Another example of a tyrant was during Augustus Caesar's rule when the Romans tortured the Christians in the arena of the lions. These cruel acts first begot these souls a like experience as a victim in their next lifetime to balance that which they had wrought. Divine justice is far more perfect than any judge or justice we have on our planet. If you can trust that, you can be at peace about whatever happens. Raphael goes on to say, indeed, there are many scenarios where these actions propelled whole races into a future experience where they became the victims. This is true of nations as well, for they are the same. The United States is a nation of people who come from the ancient civilization of Atlantis, which misused its technology, bringing about a cataclysmic event of destruction. Had there not been intervention from the higher dimensions, the whole race would have been wiped out. Some escaped to live among the people of Egypt and elsewhere. Your country seems to have passed that crisis point where you could have annihilated yourselves again. Instead, your country is simply reaping what it has sown through lesser traumatic events that involve terrorism from other countries. Remember, everything balances. But also remember, only God can determine what needs balancing. No one can take revenge without someone seeking revenge against him and suffering the consequences of that act as well. While the United States as a nation is still reaping the consequences of past mistakes, its people are becoming more enlightened. There are enough advanced souls incarnating to bring the country into alignment with higher integrity and peaceful intent so that the future is better secured than before. We say unto you, creating weapons of war is no excuse to go to war, to use them against other smaller, worrying countries that are working through their own experiences of cause and effect. By interfering, your country or the leaders who choose to interfere are creating future balancing acts. So the question comes, what about acts of terrorism? Aren't we trying to stop them? Raphael says, of course, and you are doing so at this moment with the greater vigilance and intelligence reporting. Now, this was written many years ago, and yet, even back then, we were trying to get to the intelligence, which was ignored for the last 4 years, totally ignored. Now we're finding out that there's been a lot behind the scenes that we didn't know about, and we are finding out about. And Raphael goes on to say, you are also finding that more people are coming into the light of God and reporting those who have evil intent upon another. Those, quote, terrorists, unquote, who were involved and perhaps through those acts of mass destruction of the Twin Towers in New York are presently on the other side, reviewing their life's work and seeing all aspects of their choices. There is much regret, although their human minds were quite content to commit such an act in the belief that they were heroes for their cause. For you see, when you are in a physical body, dear friends, you cannot know all things. You are going to be involved in the energy of your physical body and the experiences that you have had so far on the planet. And as someone who just spoke to me a while back, saying that they finally were able to forgive themselves because what they had happened to them, they thought they were to blame for. And that is never the case. Sometimes what happens to you, if you're thinking of karma, you're wrong. God never does that. What it is balancing of actions. And so anything bad that happens to you could be a balancing of something bad you did to someone else. And round and round and round. But that's not what life is about. Life is about gathering intelligence and knowledge and wisdom, dear ones. So with the wisdom that you have learned, you share with others. Oftentimes, you meet somebody who is going through what you went through, and you were able to empathize, not sympathize, empathize, because you have been there yourself. And in that counseling, in that compassion, you were able to help others. So everything that happens to us can create good for our soul. Don't ever, ever judge yourself as being evil or bad, because you are this giant being of light that is so full of love that nothing in darkness can overcome it. Oh, show the cover for the book. Okay, here we go again. This is called Life in Three Dimensions, and it can be found on my webpage, which is www.angelbettyraphel.com. It's available on that page, and you can do PayPal or however you want to pay, and I will send it to you. And it is a wonderful book. It has all kinds of information about the other side, about what we just spoke about today, about your soul color and your purpose for the life. It was channeled by the Archangel Raphael. It was my first channeling work. And I worked with a friend of mine, Landy Millis, who was the person that once I went into a trance state, she asked the questions. And because she had her own viewpoint of life, some of her questions are reflecting her needs for answers. But it's a wonderful book, and you will find it has a whole lot of information. So we recommend that. We also recommend, be right back here, this wonderful book that was actually our first channeling. It's called Letters from a Guardian Angel. It's also available on our channel. And it is very short, brief letters like this one on faith. It says, faith is that ability to trust in the unknown reality, unknown of the spiritual domain and the unseen goodness in all things. And this is the letter. Dear soul, faith is that innocent trust in God's divine plan for your life. Your soul was created by God to be an extension of divinity manifesting physical reality. You are an apprentice under the master creator. As an apprentice, some of your creations may not be perfect, yet the master creator only smiles and encourages you to create again. Faith is that ability to trust in the unknown reality of the spiritual domain and the unseen goodness in all things. Faith is the power given to those who create amazing feats or beautiful works of art. They do not judge the source of their ideas for manifesting beauty or bravery or art or kindness or any of the many wonders in the physical world. Faith allows each soul to plunge into the physical world, knowing they are safe within the hand of the Creator God and will never be abandoned or lost. Faith allows each person to trust their own ideas as valid and worthy of manifesting. Faith is the substance of perseverance, that inner push to achieve, to learn, to experience new ideas and new friends and new jobs and new relationships. Faith is total innocence and joy. Faith is complete trust in the goodness of God, who has never abandoned you, nor will in any way bring harm or punishment upon you. God cannot deny your good, for it sees everything you do as good, knowing that you are just an apprentice learning the art of creating. Have faith and know, beloved, that you are loved with a profound love that is beyond your comprehension. And it's signed, with profound love, your guardian angel. That's just an idea. And what I tell people to do is to make up 50 cards, number them 1 through 50. And then each day draw a card and look at that particular letter. Here's one on relationships. Each day you will be given what you need for that day. So this is an inspirational book, and it was the first channeling that I did with Raphael. Excuse me. So, all right, let us go now to something that we were thinking about earlier today as we walked the labyrinth. We have a beautiful labyrinth in our backyard. I had to put on my winter coat because it's really cold here in Florida right now. And then I walked back in the back acreage to our medicine wheel. I say our because everything I create is God's. And so I can't own it, God owns it. And this beautiful medicine wheel has 4 chairs in the 4 quadrants because I'm an old lady and I can't stand on my feet too long. And so I have a chair to sit down. So I was out there this morning meditating. And I was thinking about divine justice. And I was thinking about how we are inspired. How are we inspired? That was the question. Where do we get ideas? Where do they come from? And oh, okay. I got one thing I got to make sure I look at the questions here. Johnny Higgs said, I have read it several times. I want it for a friend. I had one person who bought 10 of them for Christmas gifts. And yes, it is very inspirational. Again, letters from a guardian angel. You'll find it on our webpage. And so thank you, Johnny, for helping me promote Raphael's work, because I am only the person who writes down the ideas. And that brings us back. Where do ideas come from? Well, many of my ideas come from an archangel called Raphael. And many of your good ideas come from your own angels and guides and the archangels. They are all there to inspire us to godliness. How about that? Inspire us to godliness. So if any of the ideas are coming from QAnon, pass it over. For all of those ideas are from the dark side. QAnon wants you to be fearful, wants you to believe in evil, wants you to be so fearful that you will do harm to another if you believe they are evil. That's how warped your thinking can get. Watch the news, and those who are seeking to do any harm to another person are caught up in the dark energy. They don't even know it. They think they are beacons of light for the world. But when they are causing chaos or harm to another, you will know that the dark has captured them and they are lost for a time. But cause and effect, what you send out comes back. And it either kisses you on the cheek or it whacks you across the face. And if you got whacked across the face, it's likely because you didn't see clearly what you were creating. Now, if you've had past experiences, as I know some people have, that have been horrendous, that you have been a victim in some way, if you've had that experience, don't go blaming yourself for creating it in some other lifetime. Maybe you've experienced it in this lifetime, so you can be inspired to be a counselor to others. By taking on that experience through no fault of your own, but only to have the experience so that you not only can help others, but you can say, I've been there, I know. So don't ever judge yourself, dear ones. All right. Divine inspiration. It comes in a flash. It comes and when the weather in Florida is down in the low 60s. It comes when you say, go get out your Michigan winter coat, put it on, and go walk the labyrinth. That's divine inspiration. In spite of what the weather is, go and do as we say. Angels will only inspire you to do good, to go into a meditation. Every day you need to meditate, dear ones. And I know a lot of people say they don't know how to meditate. Here's 3, 4 quick things. Number 1, find a quiet place where nobody will interrupt you. Make sure all sound in the house is quiet. Number 2, sit in a chair with your feet flat on the floor. Number 3, begin relaxing your body by tightening your toes and relaxing them. Then move up your legs, tighten your thighs and relax it. Tighten the buttocks and relax it. And in between the tightening and relaxing, take a deep abdominal breath. And that means that you go all the way down and backing up so I can stand up and show you that your gut here, when you breathe deeply, expands like this. Whereas other people, when they take a deep breath, they grab half a lungful and it looks like this. They raise their shoulders, they tightened up over here, and they could get dizzy and pass out. Again, abdominal breathing goes down to your gut. It's called gut breathing. And it looks like this. Watch again. Okay. Now that's demonstrating it for you. But that's the second most important thing. The first is deliberately, muscle by muscle, relaxing your body. The second is breathing in the abdomen, not in the chest. And the third thing is relaxing to a point that you're almost going to sleep. And then you awaken the right hemisphere of your brain. Now, having been a teacher, and especially a music teacher, I taught students how to use their creative imagination. That's the key element for you when you want to learn how to meditate. If you just get quiet, as transcendental meditation teaches you how to clear your mind and just be quiet. Well, my husband and I were studying how we wanted to take a course in meditation. And so we explored transcendental meditation, and we decided we didn't want to just sit there with nothing going through our heads. That didn't sound very productive. So we looked at a different kind of meditation by Jose Silva. Now, he taught people to get to the right hemisphere of the brain and to the alpha state of mind. The brain waves, when you go to sleep, begin slowing down. Your active mind, the brain waves are really going fast. When you slow down the mind, you will find that you are slowing down your active left brain. You know, people say, I can't meditate because my mind's always going. I can't get it to shut up. Well, when you do this technique of relaxing the body and concentrating on this meditation, concentrating on focusing on relaxing the body, that helps you to switch from the left hemisphere of the brain to the right. And that's when your imagination begins to kick in. Oh, I love it. Johnny is saying, I find it happening more and more, and the more I meditate. Bravo, bravo, bravo. This is how you become creative. People say, I don't know how you create so many different things. Well, it's because I've learned this technique of meditating, of getting out of that jabbering mind over here in the left brain and into the right hemisphere of the brain where the imagination kicks in. It doesn't have the left brain telling us, oh, you can't do that. That's for artists. You can't do that. But the right hemisphere says, sure, I can. I can figure out and I can do it. And that's how so many of the things that I have created in my life is not because I'm some kind of a genius. It's because I know how to let go of Betty Ray and let the angels and archangels inspire me with ideas. And that's why I brought this. I did mosaics. Let me bring this closer. Yes, I did 22 mosaics that looked like this. They were a foot square. Yeah, a foot square. And they were made of broken dishes and mirrors. Now, from these 22, a friend of mine took pictures of them, and with her embroidery machine, she created this in these 22 major arcana of the tarot cards in these wonderful little pieces of cloth. Now, I have folded them. I am going to zigzag around them. And then I'm going to put them on a navy blue material that will be the tablecloth that I will use when I do tarot readings. Now, I never even thought about doing tarot readings till Raphael inspired me to do so. Because I am now so right brain dominant, I use pictures all the time. And so Raphael suggested I learn to use the tarot cards because they're all pictures. And that when I am doing a reading for someone, I'm not using the tarot cards, but I'm inspired with a picture from the tarot. And it's usually the major arcana, which is spiritual, all spiritual. And so when I get a picture, I know what it's saying, and it's more information that I can give to the client. So listen to the divine inspiration that comes to you. Rejoice and be glad that you are a co-creator with God. And all of the wonderful things that you have done is not necessarily artistic, as I seem to be a lot of artwork for me. Other people are inspired to be of service to others. They think up wonderful things to inspire and uplift others. That may be their job. Or you may be into mathematics or some kind of science. And that's because of your soul's inclination and what it wants to study in the planet. And to give you an idea, my oldest son is a red soul, and guess what? He became a cop. He was a law enforcement officer, but he also did this. I can't remember what the name of it is, but it was to help kids. He taught kids about justice, about the police officers and what they're trying to do. So he was great with kids as well. Now, that was part of the divine inspiration that came to him. Now, my second son was a civil engineer. Believe it or not, all my sons are retired now. It seems hard to believe. But he was a civil engineer. And long ago, he went to a company. And because they were doing a lot of laying off, he had the job of laying off these engineers. And it broke his heart to do so, especially because he had just started the job. He was just getting to know these wonderful people. And he was given the job of laying these people off. Well, many years later, he had a heart attack. And as he was getting counseling, the counselor helped him to see that layoff time broke his heart. So you are being influenced physically as well as mentally and emotionally by every act that you participate in, by every act that you create. And if you are doing only good for others, and you have compassion to the point that it breaks your heart to do something that will cause harm to another, then you are on the right track. Your body may have suffered for it, but it got you an early retirement. And that's what happened with him. Now, my third son is a molecular genetic scientist. And he has been working at Amgen, American Genetics in California, until they laid him off. They laid off all of their scientists, and he was one of the last ones because he was in charge of so many others. He is a genius, and he is a yellow soul. That's the only way I can tell you. So my oldest son is a red soul, and he is in person, needs to be in charge. My second son was a blue soul, and he is a person who communicates ideas, how to build something, how to draw the plans. Third son was a scientist, is a scientist, and he has used his wonderful brain to create many, many wonderful things. And then my fourth child is a young girl. She seems young to me, but she's in her 50s. And she just got her doctor's degree in occupational therapy. I'm so proud of these four children, but yet all I did was consent to be the gateway through which they came upon the planet. Of course, I had the job of being their disciplinarian, and I could tell some funny stories about that one. But, but the point is, I agreed to be the channel through which they could enter this planet and live their wonderful lives. I am so grateful that I was able to do this. I wanted to be a nun. And Raphael had different plans for me. God had different plans for me. So I'm the mother of 4 wonderful children and 7 grandchildren. And this has been such a joy for me. And also to be a channel for the Archangel, to bring you this wonderful messages every Tuesday and Thursday. I'm going to plug in for Thursday at 11 a.m. I do a live video, and you can tune in to YouTube, Ask Raphael /Betty Ray. Every Thursday at 11 a.m. I will be there for you to ask questions. We're just getting up and started with this. Our Tuesday show on today is now in Pandora and iHeartRadio. And so we have quite a few viewers, and I'm so grateful to all of your viewers. Please spread the word, because we are here to bring light. We are here to expose the darkness. And if you have questions that you would like to ask, please don't hesitate to email me at angelbettyray@gmail.com. I will be happy to answer your questions in an email, or I'm really backed up for readings, but I'm willing to do a reading and I do not charge. I know people think, what's wrong with her? She's not charging. Well, it's because I've been given so much throughout my life that now I am giving it back. As they say, I'm paying it forward. And so for all of you who listen to this channel, we say to you, be at peace. Don't look at the world for all its darkness. Look at it for all the light. Look for the light and you will find it. And so, all right, so let's talk again more about divine inspiration. Where do ideas come from? God. All ideas come from God. Everything that exists in the physical and non-physical worlds is God's energy and manifestation. Scientists have even found that what they thought was the space between planets is really dark matter. They call it dark matter because you can't see it. It's still vibrating energy. It's like, think of this beautiful cloth, and woven into the cloth are planets and stars. And on those planets, woven into the cloth of that planet, are sentient beings that are souls, that are expressing their lives according to their inspiration in the moment. Think about that. How many planets are out there? I haven't a clue. You can't even count the stars. Well, excuse me, stars are suns. They're not planets. And you cannot count the planets. We can't even see some of them because there's more than one galaxy. There's many galaxies. Think about that. Think about how magnificent the mind of God must be, because God is the energy by which everything exists, both physical and non-physical, visible and invisible. So where do ideas come from? From God. And where did the dark ideas come from? From the convoluted energy of planet Earth's dark side. Convoluted meaning that it gets warped. It's like seeing something through a prism. And I'm looking at a beautiful angel that I have. Hold on a second. See if I can get it. Here we go. Here. Okay. A friend gave me this beautiful angel. I'm going to put it way over here because I think you can see it better. Here is this beautiful angel reflecting light, a prism. Now, this is how energy is manifested. Look at it turn and turn and turn to show you its beauty. Although it seems invisible because you can see right through it, it is definitely made of solid glass. So everything on the planet is vibrating energy in some form or another. And it is God in manifestation. And where did the idea come from? From the person who does stained glass, who created this, who made this lovely angel. Look closer and see how beautiful it is. Look at that. Isn't it wonderful? A friend gave that to me for Christmas. I love it. And the energy as it catches the light and creates chrisms, rainbows. That's God's inspiration. And someone was inspired to create that particular thing, like the angel behind me over here. That wonderful angel was inspired by God for me to create in cloth to hang on a backdrop. I've told this story before. When I was doing whole life expos and being a speaker and selling my books because I had been inspired to create that book that we saw and others. And so I went to these whole life expos for 2 years and I traveled all across the United States. Now, then when I was done, I was given the inspiration to take that cloth rendition of an angel to a stained glass artist and ask them to create a stained glass version of it, which they did. The only thing they added that I had not added was the halo around it. And they used that because it was able to hold it together. Okay, Johnny's got some more questions. She says, thank you for Tuesday and Thursday. You and Raphael are making a difference. I know it has for me. God bless you, my darling. Thank you so much to know. Johnny was a student I had 40 years ago, didn't you say, Johnny? 40 years ago. Can you imagine that someone would come back into my life? But I have to stop and back up to that too, because I had been teaching for many years, and a student I had, this was before Johnny, so it has to be 50 years ago. A student I had back then introduced me to my second husband. It was a miracle. She came back into my life, and she was a renegade. I mean, she was one of those problem children that would have her cigarettes in her form back there in her T-shirt, and she would sneak out of class and have her cigarette. She was a friend, and I became a mentor for her. She came back into my life all those years later, introduced me to my second husband, and then disappeared out of my life again. So where do ideas come from? Obviously from God. Where else could something like that connect? And my second husband was wonderful. He was a brilliant man, and bless his heart, he was just a wonderful husband. So when you trust that the divine plan is unfolding perfectly for you, when you trust that whatever you are going through right now, it's temporary, and it is an opportunity for you to rise above it and to trust the divine plan is unfolding perfectly for your life. Now, I've had readings recently where money has been the issue. It's been a lawsuit that somebody is involved in, or there's been a struggle about something or another. And yet we know of hundreds of people across the country who are practically starving because they don't have the money from not having a job, and they are going to food lines. There's proud men and women that have always been self-sufficient are now having to ask for a handout. This is a terrible time for our country, for the whole world, for it's this pandemic that has caused so much disruption in the world. And yet, take heart, dear ones. There is an end in sight. It will not be for many months yet, because there is still this virus is evolving. And as you've already heard, there's new strains of it, and it is creating more havoc. And yet they're finding that the vaccine is working for even the new strains. So don't give up on it. There are scientists like my son who has also been working on a cure for the virus. So know that they have been divinely created by God to be plunked down on planet Earth at this time during the virus for their knowledge as scientists to work for a cure. The divine plan is so big and vast. We cannot possibly understand how God is all that is, the energy by which everything exists. And that's why God does not judge. For God gives us freely of this energy to create whatever God inspires us to attempt to create. And I say attempt because there are as many failures in our creations as there are successes. And that's part of our school of learning to be a co-creator with God. I bet you my son would be willing to tell you as a scientist that many of the creations that he thought he was going to have this kind of results didn't turn out to have that kind of results. So we had to go back to the drawing board, write on his blackboard all these different figures, and start again. We are all scientists like that. We're experimenters with God's energy. Think about that. We're experimenters with energy. As we think, so do we create. If we think dark thoughts, we cannot help but expose them to the world. If we think selfish, conspiracy thinking, where evil is around us and evil needs to be destroyed and we are the destroyers, oh boy, you are following the wrong leader, because God never inspires you to do the dark side's work. That's only here on the planet. Only here do we have a dark side and a light side. You are listening to us now because you are a light worker. None of the dark workers would ever look at us. Are we running out? We have 3 minutes left. Oh my goodness. It seems like it's always happening.
No, Betty, we're out of time.
We're out of time. All right. Thank you for listening. Don't hesitate to come back again next week. We love you. Bye.